pleasure to present a topic called grillage analysis. It'll be very useful for people working in strength of materials as well as in manufacturing. This I just planned it for people who works in naval architecture or offshore engineering. So let's get started. The outline of the presentation. First, I'll introduce what is grillages and simple grillages and multidisciplinary grillages. Then we'll talk about simple analysis, like the grillage is a network that is supported either by simply supported way or by fixed end. Right, so we'll talk about that in much detail. Like there are other types of analysis as well, but we stick on to the basic. So if you're very familiar with grillage analysis or new to grillage analysis, so I'll explaining from the scratch so we all be in the same page, right? So probably after this class you might extend the knowledge what you learned in the grillage analysis to multi-variety of structures, as well as you can use multiple solution methodology or procedure to enhance the outcome or output or something like that, right? And finally I'll give you what are the future directions, like how you can make use of this in your academic reporter or in your research reporter and so on, right? So before we get into grillages is networks of stiffeners. Like you might have seen a number of beams ranging from 1 to can have 50, 100 and so on. Like it could be in a transverse way and a longitudinal way, and both crisscrossing way. It is generally a right angle to each other. So those kind of networks we call a grillages, right? So we have seen grillages in many situations, but we don't realize that unless when I say or define what is a grillage, right? Say in ship structures like the deck slab you call them, the deck slab, which is stiffened by the transverse beams and the longitudinal beams and attached to the plating, right? So probably if you work in naval architecture and ship design, probably you know what is this deck structure is all about. So those are typically a plated grillages. So that's what we're going to try to see and try to analyze with the mathematical formulation and so on, right? And then, as I told you, anything that goes in a longitudinal transverse, like in a right angle to each other, and they are called cellular networks, but even you can call them as grillages in some sense. And some example of that is bulkheads in a deep tanks and oil field bunkers. So those are some of the thing that you can think about grillages. But do you think grillages not this is the one? But there are many other villages are available, but we may not really appreciate. So this is from our canteen at VIT Chennai. It's called Gymkhana Canteen. It's for the students and faculties, and it's a steel structure. And you can see the grillages there, right? You can see transfer beam and longitudinal beam, or you can even call this transfer longitudinal, whichever you might call it. And this is a deck slab. Probably you can see it's a corrugated web deck slab, and all these things are steel, and it's a steel structure. Normally, steel structures are not pretty common in India, uh, owing to its cost. But steel structures are really good if you really provide a lot of care to the corrosion and other aspects. So steel structures can have as equivalent as the reinforced concrete structure as well, right? So this is typical example of that. So this is what we're going to try to do in our lecture. This is typically called grillages, or this is also called a cellular steel networks, but the concepts remains the same. So you can define by any means, but this is fairly the same, right? And not only horizontal structure, there are vertical structures, and this is called formwork systems. And you can see there are huge, massive formworks. This is for a wall structure, reinforced concrete wall. So concrete gets poured at the other side, and this formwork or temporary structure that will be, in place till the concrete gets cured. So once that is cured or completely becomes a solid, then they remove this. And you can see this is probably a very high wall, and this is me. You can see I'm 5 foot 7 inches, and this is even bigger, a massive structure, right? Right. So not only the weight or the load acts on it could be on the surface or the circumferential, but it could be vertical as well, like the other surface. This is also known as circumferential pressure, but in this case it's a lateral pressure. But this is the applied pressure or something like that. Intensity will be flat, and this is intensity will be hydrostatic. The bottom will have a huge pressure, whereas top will be the lesser pressure in terms of fluid pressure or hydrostatic pressure. So all these things are grillages, right? So not necessarily beam, the crisscrossing of beam in the parallel plane, but also could be one would be above and could be below as well. So those are also called as screw ledges. In this case, you see this is called veilers. This is generally called veils because that's a double channel. So that's generally double in number. They call veils, which is the plural form of veiler, and this is a channel section that holds the vertical formwork. That, that will be fixed in fixity is maintained, right? And these things are called H beams, or you can even call timber I beams. You can call, but generally it is called as H beams. And this is a massive in weight by itself, but then concretes on the other side is also massive. So this gets connected to the other side. So this one side of the wall form. There's another side as well. So the same setup will be there on the other side. So this is a tie rod that connects between that, right? So many researches happens in this area where the concrete pressure is very heavy. So sometimes this formwork might fail. So they need to design such a way that this formwork should be adequate to hold enough pressure exerted by the fresh concrete. But once it gets hardened, the pressure gets minimum and something like that, right? Right. So this also a vertical grilleges and something like that, right? So right. So before we get into actual grillage analysis, let me define you some of the terminologies. To do so, let's take a look at one of the simple grillages. Probably grillages are very difficult to model mathematically in terms, because since it has a huge numbers of parameters. But in this lecture, what we'll be doing is like we'll be focusing a simplified method of grillage analysis. So we'll take a simple model initially, then we'll build up that simple model to some complexity, but not as high complexity as in case of ship structure. But anyway, you can use this idea to extrapolate what you learned in this particular lecture using advanced computer programs or softwares. You can always model. Nowadays is very easy to model and analyze even a complex structure, right? But understand the fundamentals are the key, right? So that's what we're going to focus. So let's take a look at this. Two stiffener, say AB and CD, which has AB has a length L1 and a moment of inertia I1, and uniformly distributed throughout that particular length L1, and the uniformly distributed load is W1. And for CD, the length is L2 and the moment of inertia is I2. We can have same moment of inertia, but generally in a Dex lab, for example, for this case, let's take a look at this case. This is a timber and this is a steel. See, this is a timber structure which has got a different moment of inertia and moving to the section as well. It's I section or H section. And this is a channel section. It's a double channel. It's a built-up section, and its moment of inertia gets varied. But if you ask me to rank the moment of inertia of the materials, and this is pretty heavy. The steel structures have got huge moment of inertia when compared to the other thing, or you can even call in terms of rigidity. Steel has got huge rigidity when compared to the the wooden structure or timber structure, right? So that's why we generally have two moment of inertia. But if you have the same size and same members and same material properties, then you can have same moment of inertia as well, right? Then I2, I mean the CD, that is also subjected to uniformly distributed load W2 and throughout this length of this plane, right? And one of the important assumptions or what you can call that as a construction procedure for a grillage or cellular network is both has to be given perpendicularly, like, or both has to be intersected perpendicularly. Like, so that's the one assumption or conventional way you do construction of the grillages or something like that, right? So that's why it is AB and CD are perpendicular at right angle to each other and something like that. And also for this example, we take the point of intersection of the AB and CD beam at the midpoint, right, for the convention, right? And we also see that the effect of the attachment of one beam over the other creates a reaction force, something like that. So normally when we solve a simply supported beam, we just take reactions only when a load applies on it, and we take the reactions at the end supports. But in this case, there is a beam that puts its own pressure. So that's considered to be a point load as well. So, but for that also, the lower beam or the beam that's taking up that particular beam above it also induces reaction. So that's why it is little different when compared to the conventional simply supported beam or even a fixed beam or something like that. Right. So that's, I'll explain you what that means. So first we'll take a look at the two beams. This is AB and CD, and this is typically moment of inertia I1 and moment of inertia I2. You can see AB is going over it, so I just made the orange color beam, which is the beam to CD to the below of AB, right? Something like that. And I've just have to look into the free body diagram of this. So this is just a general construction layout, and I just say this is the conventional direction I take. This is X and this is Y, right? Something like that. So if you have something, kind of deck slab with the stiffeners, additional stiffeners like the Z section. In terms of aeronautical engineering, they provide Z section in the wings, right? So in that case, you need to look into Z direction as well. But for this problem, we'll just stick on with X and Y. So we don't have to really complicate our equations into three-dimensional. Two-dimensional deflection equation itself is very difficult to compute, and three-dimensional, it's very, very complex, right? So for understanding, we'll just keep uh, 2D surfaces or something like that, right? So that's why A, B, and CD, and we this support we will first consider as a simply support for this simple problem. Then in a complex case, we'll be looking into simply support as well as the fixed end support as well, right? So that's the order of the presentation, right? Right. So as I told you, the loading pattern. So this is a loading pattern for the beam one, which is AB. So it's a uniformly distributed load of W1. So once that happens, once that uniformly distributed load imposes a load on the beam, we also should not neglect there is a capital W, which is a little bit different than our conventional thing. So this W is because of the plated surface, when which you can approximate to the huge intersection at the center. So load gets transferred to here. So that's why remember it's a capital W, and it's a simply supported beam with a UDL plus a point load at the center. Not only that, there is a support here. We take the next beam as a support, so which means that we'll induce a reaction here as well. So that's the difference between a cellular network and a simply conventional beam, simply supported, something like that. Right. So the length of the beam is L1, and the reaction at the support is W into L1, which is converting this entire density of load divided by 2, half of that, minus W by 2. So this is the weight imposed, and that is in the downward direction. I take the downward direction as negative, so it is negative W by 2, and either way it is minus W by 2, right? And then there's another beam that crisscross here, is CD, which also have the same loading pattern. So to have a clear picture of single beam, I just showed this, and this is the the combination of two things, right? So this is the AB as well as CD, right? So AD is the intensity and CD is the intensity loading, and for CD you can even have a reaction at W, right? As simple as that. And this is L2, and the length is L2, and this is how the simple network. This is just approximation. This is not even a grillage. This is just like a two beams intersecting each other, something like that. Right. Right. Next is we talk about reactions of the support. So reaction one, which is nothing but for the reaction of the beam AB, and next is the reaction of the supports CD. These two reactions, which is positive W by. Right. Right. So this is the one which we have already found out. Right. So then we talk about moment, bending moment of AB, which is nothing but W1 L1 divided by 2 minus W by 2 into X minus W1 X square by 2. So X ranges from 0 to L1. So this is for the bending moment of this particular simply supported beam with the point load at the center. And then we talk about bending moment of the next beam. But in this case, we'll be looking at the intensity at this place or something like that. Right. Then we'll be looking into the other thing, bending moment of the CD, which is W2L2 divided by 2. This is a reaction force, and we have the reaction into Y minus W1 Y square divided by 2. Remember, I take This is in terms of x direction and this is in terms of y direction. It's a plain 2D surface, right? And y ranges from 0 to L2, right? Something like that, right? So we solved a bending moment problem for a simply supported beam, but this involves something like a point load. So this is a very important thing that we need to get rid of in the initial stage so that you can get the overall picture, right? So what does that say is the bending moment of two beams networks in unison, right? So far it is an individual beam and we need to consider two networks in unison. That is a grillage actually. So that will be determined only when we know this capital W. So that's what it means by this. So to do so, to find out the value of W, which is the intensity at that point or the intersection, we need to calculate the deflection of the beam AB and CD. Not only bending moment matters, but we need to look into the deflection as well. Right, so the deflection of AB due to bending at the point of intersection or midpoint is given by this delta 1, which is 5 by 384, which is the deflection for a simplest of a beam. W1 L1 power 4 divided by EI minus W into I cube divided by 48 EI. So something like deflection of AB. And deflection of CD, you can have something like delta 2, which is equals to 5 by 384 W2 L2 power 4 divided by EI plus EI2 actually. I2 is for the second beam plus WI2 cube divided by 48 EI. So this is another thing that you should really look into. Right, so since two beams is attached in the midpoint, right, that's a very important assumption when which the deflection at the center will be equal. So the deflection at the other than the center may not be, may not be in the vicinity or cannot be the same because of the I2 gets variable. But at that point of intersection, both beams access the same member. Almost as an assumption, like we can have same kind of deflection or something like that. So that is what our consideration, right? So we will be equating delta 1 and delta 2. So delta 1 and delta 2 we have found out from our previous analogy. We'll be equating that. So 5 by 384 W1 L1 power 4 divided by EI minus W into I1 cube by 48 EI equals to 5 by 384 W square L2 power 4 divided by EI 2 plus WI square 3 by 48 EI, right? Something like that. Right, so you can rearrange this. You can club a single term, similar terms at one side. Say I bring this to the other side, this will become as minus. And this term, if I go to the other side, already it's minus, it will become positive. So we have almost clubbed it. And we can take out the common factors like 5 by 384, we can take, or 5 by 384 E, we can take out from either expression. So it will be 5 by 384E W1 L1 power 4 by I1 minus W2 L2 power 4 by I2. So this is one term. And W by 4080. So we take W by 4080, which is pretty common in both the terms. So we'll take outside. So I1 cube divided by I1 plus I2 cube divided by I2. So that will be a term here. And we need a W. So we rearrange this. So I'll move this and this the other side. So which is W by 48E, which is I1 cube by I1 plus I2 cube by I2 equals to 5 by 384E into W1 L power 4 divided by I1 minus W2 L to power 4 by I2. Right. So this is another term. Right. So next we'll be retaining W and move the other factors at the other side. So you can see E and E are common, so you can strike out that, and 384 and 48, and you can probably when you go this side it will become 48 by 384 or 5 into 48 by 384. So 48 and 384, I think 8 48s are 384, so this gets divided and it becomes 8. So the final factor will be 5 by 8, and we can even still move this things at the other side, so it will become denominator, and this is the term. So this is pretty important. So we have found out what is W, and you can even further simplify it, right? If you take conjugate or something like you can probably make up this into this particular thing. So this finally becomes the capital W, this intensity at that point. This is intensity is not only because of the one beam, it is for the unison, two beams acting as in unison, right? So 5 by 8, W1 into L1 minus W2 into L2 into I1 by I2 multiplied by L2 by L1, I mean L2 cube divided by L1 cube and divided by 1 plus I1 divided by 2 into L2 cube divided by L1 cube, right? So this factor I have just put it in the bracket. So this has some significance, right? So far we do everything in terms of numerical calculations, but here we need to look into the qualitative perspective also. Like we not only look into the numbers that will say how do you calculate reaction or how do you calculate moment, that matters. It's more than that is the qualitative inference out of your analogy. So let's take a look at that, right? So if beam CD is rigid, which is the second beam, which is the one that is lying beneath the AB, or at the point of AB, right? So if beam CD is rigid, and this entire term will become zero, right? So I repeat, when beam CD is rigid, this term will become zero. So it will become only 5 by 8 W1 into L1. But if beam CD is flexible, so this is very important. In fact, it's a very important analogy. If beam CD is flexible, this entire thing will become zero. So the entire intensity itself is not adequate, because you take a look at the pretty good example is the soft toys and the hard toys, right? So when you apply load on it, like if it is having a intensity rigidity to withstand, it will have something to stay, that's a weight and the reaction. But if it is as flexible, so this rigid member and flexible member, it almost deteriorates and there's no point in having it zero. Just like sword punk, you heard of sword punk, which is it's a eatable item, and you can even call another item where people use for decorating the cakes and ice creams, that chocolates sticks. So both has same dimension, almost together has the same dimension. Whereas sword punk is just like a rigid, it's a very flexible, has got no rigidity at all. It'd be like a jelly stuff or something. But crisps, sticks and all, like will be sturdy unless you break it, right, somewhere. So that's kind of a rigidity and flexibility. So that's what it means by this particular value, right? So this is a qualitative inference in which rigid member will enhance or appreciates the the loading, whereas loading or reactions, by the way. If it is flexible and there's no point in taking that, so it will be like trampoline. So your grillage networks will be like a trampoline network, so it will be all flexible, right? Something like that, right? Right. So if beam CD is rigid, so we have this particular value, which is 5 by 8 W1 L1. So the entire term, this becomes zero. So W1 L1 divided by 1 into 5 by 8. So that particular term gets incorporated into the moment of beam 1, which is W1, instead of this particular thing. So I just simplified that. So I'll go back to that. Yeah, this one W1 L1 divided by 2 minus W is 5 by 8 W1 L1. So 5 by 8 W1 L1 divided by 2. So when you do arithmetic, so you get this particular thing. I've just simplified it, 3 by 16 L1 into x minus x squared by 2, right? So this is for 0 to L1. So x ranges from 0 to L1, right? So when the beam is rigid, like something like it's rigid, uh, it imposes the additional reaction, so that your beam, the existing beam, like AB, will have a moment as equal to a three span continuous beam. I repeat, when the CD is rigid, as another, it's exhibiting some rigidity. So the behavior of this particular beam, like the first AB, will behave like a three-pan continuous beam. When you draw a bending moment diagram, so three-pan continuous beam, you have this particular formation. But whereas when CD is flexible, the rigidity of CD is not considered into account, but instead we'll be looking into only the rigidity of AB. So which means that it will act as a simply supported beam with a point load, right? The load acting on it. So it will be something like this, right? So this is the difference between the rigidity. So why we are facing this is sometimes in a grillage network, all beams cannot have the same rigidity. Some has got higher or something, but we'll generally look into the average value. And this also, if you compare the rigidity of this as well as this, then this has got huge rigidity when compared to this, right? So all these things matter. So that's why we look into two moment of inertia and different parameters and so on, right? So that's why we looked into the qualitative parameters like beam being rigid and beam the secondary beam being rigid or secondary beam being flexible, right? So as simple as that, right? So this is the typically the simple example or simple grillage analysis. And on substituting W equals to 0, it is almost converging into a simply supported beam with a uniformly distributed load for length L1 and length L2, something like that, right? So since the W becomes 0, so this value, this value will become 0 in either cases. So negative of this value is nullified or positive of this value gets nullified. So both will behave the same pattern. So that's why it is simply supported in nature. Right? So far we talked about just simple grillage analysis, but we need to really emphasize on the actual grillage analysis, which has multiple stiffeners in place, right? So before we get into the multiple stiffeners, the key takeaways are the flexibility of both beams or stiffeners is dependent on the relative stiffness of this material. So it's not only the one its own property, but also looks into the connections of the other property, other stiffnesses of the other beams as well, right? Say if say look at this example, I just keep on coming to this example. So this has got its influence on this material, and this material also have got this influence or its support from this particular material as well. So that's why it is either way around. So that's why we looked into the relative stiffness, which is a very important parameter that should be generally modeled in engineering structures. Generally, we looked into the stiffness of the apparent or the inherent material, but stiffness of the other parameters on this particular thing is also very important, right? Something like that. So this is a very important thing in terms of a composite design. Like a concrete, itself is a composite which has got a steel rebars, so we need to look into the parameters or the bond parameters between two. So that's why it is very important. Same way, a neoprene gets added with the timber member. So we need to look into the stiffness of both the parameters as well. So one should not be damaged because of the higher stiffness value or lesser rigidity of the other. So it's vice versa. Right. Then we'll talk about multi-stiffener grillages. This, in fact, is a very important discussion today. So far, we discussed about the simple grillages, simple, entity. But now we looked into the multiple stiffener grillages, like where one or more stiffeners running across is one dimension or two dimension, by the way, right? So in this example, we'll be taking a look at, this particular stiffeners, which has got 7 cross 7. So 7 longitudinal stiffness or blue color, and orange colors or transverse stiffness. And the load, you can see that in the simple grillage analysis. We talked about load acting at the point of intersection of the two things. But in this case, if you have a networks of girders or stiffeners, the load will be acting at the intersection, and that intersection may not be you know um, kind of a center of the network itself. So if intensity is acting on it, you can see this is just closer to this region. And if you take a look at some, not here but here, this is another region. But if you take at this thing, because this is the center of the entire plane, so that's probably as equivalent as what we have considered in this case, right? So let's take a look at the implications of the multi-stiffener girders. Like when there are more than one stiffeners in each sets, resulting in a series of unknown loads, so this W at the point of intersection of each stiffeners, right? So it will be very difficult to model using single linear equations, like in this case, but like in the case of the single stiffeners, it's very difficult to find out. So we'll be using a series function, right? So that's the thing. We'll be using series of linear simultaneous equations, right? So and sometimes if you have a multiple parameters like the temperature, then fixity, and so on, probably you can model that using computers. So manual computation was very difficult to effectuate. So we just prefer computer solution or something like that, right? Then for ship structure, not only the stiffeners or the carrilages matters, but it gets attached to a plate or a deck slab or a deck plate. So that we generally ignore that thickness for this analysis. But if you really practice that, if you use that for your ship structure or something like that, naval structure, then you can probably look into the deck slab thicknesses and all something like that, right? So this is similarly like a concrete slab resting on the beam intersection, something like that. So we need to really look into that as well. So when you do design of beam, you really look into the slab load as well, right? So that's what you generally mention as uniformly distributed load on the beam, right? So that's a typical example. And sometimes external load, it's also transmitted to the girders through the plates. Like for example, impacts on the surface of the plates or vibrations or at least the pressure, atmospheric pressure exerted on that plate gets transferred to the grillages, right? So you need to look into additional parameters, but this for this example, we will restrict that plate thickness to be negligible and intensity of load acts on the girder because of the plane is negligible or something like that. Right, so we'll consider multi stiffener networks, which has got R cross S, which is 7 cross 7 stiffener networks, and we consist of 7 primary stiffeners, 7 longitudinal stiffeners, and with total length of L, and R is a space between the longitudinal stiffeners, and 7 secondary stiffeners are called transverse stiffeners, which has got the total length. In fact, we call as a breadth as B, and the spacing between the transverse girders or small s. Right. So moment of inertia, as usual, like we take two different moment of inertia for two different beams. Right. So for the primary beam, the moment of inertia could be I1, and for secondary beam, the moment of inertia could be IB, respectively. So this is the idea. So for naming convention, I mark it as 0, 1, 2, 3. Or if you really like it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, you can pretty well do it. Because in a finite element or any softwares like that has a grid pattern, so generally it will be 0, 0, and uh, uh, the dimension minus 1, comma dimension minus 1. So in this case is 7 minus 1 is 6 and 7 minus 1 is 6. So we have got 7 longitudinal girders and 7 transverse girders. Right, as simple as that. And the moment of inertia of this particular transfer beam is IB, whereas the moment of inertia of the longitudinal beam is I1, and the longitudinal beams are spaced by a factor called R. So R is the spacing between this. So we'll be taking a generic example. Say maybe after this lecture, you can use values to it. You can give values to this particular thing, and you can solve using the methods that we'll be presenting in a minutes later. Right. And the spacing between the transverse beam is a small s. So that's the spacing between small beam. So this is the length of the transfer beam, which is a small b, and length of the longitudinal beam is small l. Right. So these are R stiffeners. Stiffener 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which is R equals to 0 to 6, which is 7 stiffeners. And similarly, these are S stiffeners. S equals to 0, S equals to 1, 2, 3, and S equals to 6. Right. So these are six transverse stiffeners. And as usual, we take the sign as this side is X and this side is Y. So it's a two-dimensional plate element, right? As simple as that. Right. So now we actually dive in to the actual computational procedure of the village analysis. So far, we have just actually modeled, or we have just talked about the force acting on it or something like that, but we have not actually, analyzed that into a greater detail, right? We, even though we have done some analysis of the simple, grillage, but for the multi stiffener grillages, we need to really look into the further aspects like the deflection and other parameters that we will be discussing now, right? So the multiple stiffener grillages can be classified into two. One is the simply supported condition at the fixed Pn condition, There are two different supporting conditions that will alter the the behavior of the multi-stiffener collages, right? So first we'll be looking into the simply supported condition. Then we'll be looking into the fixed ended condition. But there's another thing is something called a dual, which is partly simply supported and partly fixed. Those things you can call this like change in the fixicity or degree of fixicity condition that we may not be focusing in this lecture, but you can always make use of this knowledge to extrapolate it to the other types of fixicity of the grillages or something like that, right? Right. So first step was simply supported condition for the multi-stiffener grillages. And the method of solution is to calculate the strain energy. We'll be calculating the strain energy due to bending of the system of stiffness or privileges, and we'll equate it to the work done by the load, right? So work done because of the load, and when we equate it, we'll get the value, or we get a factor, and that factor will be very useful for to determine the overall deflection as well as the bending moment of the network itself. So far we'll be discussing about individual elemental way, but we need to look into holistic perspective or the generic, entire network as well, right? So that's the important thing. So this is the synopsis or the hint or the we can call this to be the outline of our solution procedure, right? So we'll be equating the strain energy to the work done, something like that, right? So first is analysis of a multi-stiffener simply supported grillages, right? Say so far we've been talking about uh, simply supported simple element, but now we'll be looking into the multi-stiffeners or something like that, right? So as I told you, we cannot model multiple entity into with a single linear equation, so that for the deflection of the grillage at any point on the multi-stiffener grillage network, which is M cross N transverse stiffness and a normal loading. So this is very important. We don't talk about vibration loading, we talk about normal loading. So in a normal loading, so the formula is delta equals to summation M tends to 1 to infinity and N tends to 1 to infinity. So this is longitudinal girder and this is the transverse girder. And this is a coefficient. We'll be talking about that a little later. And sine function, this is probably called a sine function, or you can even call it double infinite sine series. And this is sine of m pi x divided by L. So this is for the longitudinal entity. And you can see here we'll talk about L and talks about M. This is N when we talk about R, or in fact we'll talk about this thing, right? So I L or something like that, right? So that's what basically it means, like N pi y by P, right? So this is the longitudinal and this is the transverse function, right? So the strain energy of one longitudinal stiffener R, right? So we talk about the strain energy of one longitudinal stiffener R, which is equals to limits 0 to L. Since we take longitudinal stiffener to 0 to L, L here can even call any value, 0 to L, uh, Young's modulus into moment of inertia divided by 2 multiplied by partial differential factor. So this is the partial differential factor of delta, which is the deflection, and divided by dou x squared dx and dy. So this is a longitudinal stiffener. So we divide by dou x squared. If it is a transverse stiffener, we'll be dividing this by delta y squared. Right. So first we will do one thing. Longitudinal stiffener. If you find the strain value of that, so finding out transfer strain value of the transfer stiffener is pretty easy. And in fact, if you find transfer stiffener, the strain value of a strain energy of a transfer stiffener, you can pretty well convert that into a longitudinal stiffener as well. So for this case, we'll take a look at the longitudinal stiffener. So L stands for longitudinal stiffeners, equals to 0 to 1. The limit tends to 0 to 1. Integration EI1 divided by 2 dou square delta divided by dou x square, the whole square. Remember, this is a very important term. So normally people take up this formula without this square by mistake. So kindly make sure that it does not only dou square delta divided by dou x square, it's a whole square, right? So into dx dy. So once you use partial differentiation, and you probably get this particular thing. So limit 0 to 1, e I1 divided by 2 and pi square by L power 4, since we are actually partially differentiating the delta, which is this one. So the delta is summation m equals to 1 to infinity, n equals to 1 to infinity, a m n sine of m pi x pi L, sine of n pi y by b, right? So that particular term, and that gets squared. So when you partially differentiate that, so you get pi square by L power 4, and dy gets gone, and dx. And finally, when you do an integration of 0 to L, you will get the strain energy stored in one longitudinal stiffener. I repeat, it's one longitudinal stiffener. So it's not a group of longitudinal stiffeners. It is just one longitudinal stiffener. Say it could be any one of these, right? So it will be any one of these, right? So that will be pi power 4 multiplied by E into IL divided by 4 into L cube multiplied by summation of m equals to 1 to infinity n to infinity AMN, then AMN squared multiplied by m power 4, because when you do integration, this 2 gets go down, so that's why this 2 into 2 becomes 4 here, and so on. And am power squared and m power 4 and sine square pi n pi y by b. This term will gets gone because x term gets gone. So when you differentiate this, so this will become sine squared n pi y by b. So remember, it's not m pi x by L, it is n pi y by b. So which means that when you do longitudinal way, the strain energy stored gets reflected because of the transverse way, like y and b, right? So as simple as that, sine of that particular parameters, right? So y is for a single longitudinal stiffener, but our objective is to really look into multiple girders. So how do we go about do multiple girders is that, so the value of y, the kth stiffener. So kth stiffener equals to y suffix k equals to kc divided by a plus b. C will be generally b for longitudinal stiffener, and L for transverse stiffener, right? Say this is the ulta. As I told you, for longitudinal stiffener, we'll look into the transverse parameters, like b is a transverse parameter. And for transverse stiffener, we need to look into longitudinal parameters. So the C is the opposite to of that, right? And A equals to R for longitudinal stiffener, and S for transverse stiffener. So this all R, this is perfectly correct. So R for longitudinal stiffeners and S for transverse stiffeners, something like that, right? So once you have this formula in place, you can find out for the first case, we have already found out for the longitudinal beam, one longitudinal beam. Let's take a look at what happens for the entire longitudinal beams, like entire longitudinal beams. We'll just take a look at this. So we substitute C equals to B and A equals to R. So this factor n into pi, this is earlier you can see it is y by b. So y tends to k into b divided by r plus 1. So k into b divided by r plus 1. Already there is a b below. So you can see y equals to k into b divided by r plus 1. So b get cancelled. So it becomes n pi k by r plus 1. So that's how it becomes n pi k plus r plus 1. So this is the strain energy of kth longitudinal stiffener, right? So some number, and we have found out it's longitudinal stiffener. But even then, this is a single stiffener, single beam or single girder. But we need to generalize this to multiple stiffeners. Like for example, there are multiple longitudinal stiffeners. Like so, in this case, it's just 7. But if you have 50, 100 stiffeners, then probably you can use this particular formula to extrapolate it to multiple stiffness. So the formula for total strain energy of all longitudinal beams, so which is nothing but UL equals to pi power 4 IL divided by 4L cube. So this factors remains the same, and even this factor remains the same. So I'll come back to this later. So this is m equal to 1 to infinity, n equals to 1 to infinity, and am n power 2 whole power 2. Then it was m power 4, then sine squared into n pi by k into r plus 1. But we need to include a factor called the k summation. Summation of k equals to 1 to r. So here it is 1 to 7. Here it is 1 to 7. But here it is, you know, 1 to r. It's a generalized formula, right? So generalized formula for all the longitudinal stiffeners. Similarly, once we found out the total strain for all longitudinal stiffener, we can also find a total strain for all transverse stiffener as well, right? So the total strain of all transverse stiffeners, like we change the IL, which is the moment of inertia of this, to IB, moment of inertia of the transverse beam. And as I told you, longitudinal depends on the transverse parameter. Like transverse will depends on longitudinal parameter. So we need M and S plus 1 instead of R plus 1, M plus 1. And not only that, we'll be retaining N square here, and here it's also M square. So do not change this parameter, but instead change only this in terms of sign parameters, something like that, right? And this is the total strain energy of all transverse beam. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna use both longitudinal strain and transverse strain. That will be the total strain, right? So the total strain in the stiffeners or the grillages are, we have got some of the longitudinal stiffener plus transverse stiffener. So simply we'll add both the parameters and keep it ready, right? So initially, when we talked about multi-stiffener parameters, we talked about a factor called, once you calculate the total strain energy of bending of the system, not the individual member. So system comprises of longitudinal stiffener as well as the lateral stiffener or the transverse stiffener, right? So this is the grillage strain energy of bending of the grillages, right? So that is U, which is we have calculated U here, right? So once that is done, we have to equate it to work done by the load, right? So let's take a look at how we can equate it to the work done by the load. So this is Q, which is equals to the work done. That is due to the applied load capital P per area of the grillage. So I've just saved it as, if you convert that in terms of foot, it is per foot. What is the load intensity, right? Something like that. And this is integration 0 to L, double integration, in fact, 0 to L and 0 to B. That's the area integration, right? So it will calculate the work done because of the load applied to the entire duration, right? So as simple as that, which is equals to half into P, which is the load acting on it, multiplied by delta into dx into dy, right? So you can expand the delta using the formula that which we have derived initially or put forth initially. So this delta, which is the reflection. So Q equals to 0 to L and 0 to B and half of P multiplied by this delta dx and dy. So we don't have to really simplify at this point of time. So we'll keep it ready. So we have our strain energy of the entire system of the grillage is ready. And we do have a strain energy, I mean the work done because of the load P for the entire area or the grillage. So next is we will be equating both. So we'll be equating the U equals to Q, which is the work done. So there's some simplification. So for want of time, we don't discuss much in detail about this simplification. So there are factors that can be replaced, like the sine square n pi k by r plus 1 can be replaced by r plus 1 by 2. Similarly, k equals to 1 equal 1 to s sine square m pi k divided by s plus 1 equals to s plus 1 by 2. So we simply replace the factors, sine square factors in the this particular equations by this, and we'll get a form. So when you rearrange that form, you will get the factor AMN. So this factor, can even see. So I told you in the initial stage when we discussed the deflection. So this is what we're gonna find out. So that will be determined based on the strain energy as well as the work done. And this is a coefficient factor that determines the complete deflection of the grillage network, right? So let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at that. So AMN equals to, for this is for simply supported symmetrical grillage carrying a uniformly distributed load. So this is the formula. So how do you get this formulas? When you simplify this, when you rearrange this and simplify this, you will get this. Not only that, we need to incorporate this factors into here. So approximate it. So we'll get this particular factor. So 16p L power 4 b divided by E I L divided by pi power 6 m into n multiplied by m power 4 r plus 1 plus I b divided by I L to L cube by Bn B cube into n power 4 into r plus 1. So this is the factor, right? So once you get this factor, you substitute this factor in the equation 9. Here it is, no? So when you substitute this, you get the final or the comprehensive deflection of this particular grillage. So the comprehensive, how this particular entire plate network or something like a grillage network will probably bend or something like that, or deflect or something like that. So that's this factor. And once you do that, you can doubly differentiate this. You can get the moment equation. So let's take a look at that as well. So the bending moment of a girder from the relation of deflection due to the bending is given by m equals to minus ei multiplied by partial difference square of partial differentiation of deflection divided by partial differentiation d square, right? So this I and d are are a variable, right? So for longitudinal beam, E replaced by L, we will be using IL, moment of inertia of that longitudinal beam, and D replaced by X. So D replaced by X. Whereas for the transfer beam, this will become IB, moment of inertia of B. This D replaces by Y, right? Something like that, right? So let's take a look at some of the bending moment for the longitudinal beam. Moment equals to minus ei1 multiplied by dou square x by dou x square, which is nothing but this factor, right? So the converged factor. So we have skipped some steps in between. So we need to take this particular deflection, which is here, equation 18, and when you apply partial differential equation to that, minus ei and that factors, and everything will now becomes this particular entity. So this will become the moment equation for the longitudinal beam, or it's not a longitudinal beam, it's a series of longitudinal beams, right? Right. So once you find out moment of the longitudinal beam, you can even very well find out the moment of transfer beam. Only thing is, if you found these things correctly, then doing it for transfer beam may not be that difficult. You have to only change the parameters, like the n becomes m, n becomes m, and then r becomes s, and something like that. The ib by il becomes il by lb, l square becomes b square into l, and something like that, right? So s plus 1 becomes b, and l becomes r plus 1, something like that. So I just read out the longitudinal beam, which is this one, ml equals to summation of m tends to 1 to infinity and summation of n tends to 1 to infinity, and 16p l square b divided by pi power 4 n by m, then m power 4 into r plus 1 plus ib by il into l cube by b cube into n power 4 into s plus 1, right? Right. So then sine m pi x by l and sine n pi y by s plus 1. Right. So next we'll look into the transverse beam. Right. The moment of this transverse beams, k transverse beam or k transverse beam is equals to minus eib into dou square x pi dou y square, which is equals to summation of m tends to 1 to infinity, the same thing. But instead of n by m in the previous case, this will become m by n, and p initially was l square p, this will become b square r, and il by lb becomes ib by ll becomes il by ib, and l cube divided by b cube divided by is equals to, I mean, in this case it becomes b cube by l cube, and m power 4 r plus 1, here it is s plus 1, right? So this is the negation term, like m power 4 becomes n power 4 and s plus 1, and initially it was m power 4 r plus 1, that's like that. And we know r l term we can replace by r plus 1, and we retain b assert for a transverse b, right? So as simple as that. So this is typically the bending moment relation based on the determined delta function, right? Right. Sometimes, so far we have talked about the stiffeners as this parameter, But some people argue that instead of taking individual parameters like the deflection of this and its influence on the other, so they will take area factor, or they'll take band factor or something like that. So instead of taking this beam, they can take this particular region, which is like half the S2 of the other cell and half the S2 of the other cell. So S plus 2, S by 2 plus S by 2 will give us S, right? Something like that. So probably that is intensity is Q equals to P into S. So instead of modeling it by manual method like this, generally people prefer modeling it in computers using this band function. So they get intensity of load, the stress patterns on this particular thing pretty easily and accurately than comparison of the individual beam. So this gives us the influence of that in the plate structure also, right? So this is a typical thing, right? So want of time, we will not have time to discuss this in detail. Right? Let's go to the other analogy, which is the fixed ended condition. Right. So far we talked about simply supported condition, but now we'll look into the fixed end correlations or something like that. Right. Corlett is a scientist who have developed this function for a fixed end condition of the Grillages, and it is known as double infinite series function consisting of basic functions like f of x and f of y. Right, let's take a look at that. So the deflection of the Grillages at any point on the multi-stiffener Grillage network completely fixed and under normal loading, like the supports are completely fixed or the ends are completely sealed and subjected to normal loading. So this is the delta, which is equals to m equals to 1 to infinity, n equals to 1 to infinity, and this factor we have already seen in the previous case. And fmx multiplied by fny or the basic function proposed by Corwin. Right, so same way, like in case of a simply supported beam, in this case also we'll be looking into finding out the strain energy of the longitudinal beam as well as transfer beam, and we'll add some of the strain energies of the longitudinal beams or transfer beam to get the total strain energy. Then we will equate that to work done for the force P on the area of the correlages, and then we will be finding out the value of AMN, and we will be substituting in the the delta factor itself. Then we'll get the bending moment and other related factors, right? So go about and do that. So this is u longitudinal, which is equals to 0 to L integration, m equals to 1 to infinity, n equals to 1 into infinity. These things are summations, and AMN, and EIL divided by 2, which is the factor which we have discussed early, and then AM square. Here what we do is we'll be taking out the deflection parameters and we try to put it in the but here we'll be looking into the conventional or ordinary differential equation, not the partial differential equation, like in the case of a simply supported beam, and the whole square into Fn square y into dx. And then total strain energy of all longitudinal stiffeners, we have to incorporate a factor called k equals to 1 to r. Then we have a factor called alpha m and phi m. This is the factor put forth by Corlett, and we need to really look into those as well. And finally, substituting this Fn square y dk by kn, and summation of 0 to L pi m square equals to am square into L. So this am square is the effect of the band thing that we have considered early, no? Right. So we talked about this, but we have not done enough details on this, but this is a factor that corresponds to the am square into L will be the factor for pi m square, which is within the limit 0 to L, right? M square dx, right? So dx is the factor. So on substitution, this 24 equation number will become UL equals to m equal to 1 to infinity, n equals to 1 into infinity, EIL divided by 2 into AMN square, alpha m power 4, AM square, L into Kn, right? So this is 25. Right, so the coefficient of am is the taken from the expression f of x. Right, so this we have skipped that because that will be a consideration for this particular case, right? So as of now, understand that it's a factor which we have derived from f of m into x, right? Something like that. So this will become the total strain energy of all the stiffeners, right? So once you find out the total strain energy of all longitudinal stiffeners, we just probably predict the total strain energy of all transverse stiffeners. Same thing, but instead of a alpha m power 4, it is alpha n power 4. Instead of a m square, it is a n square. Instead of l, it becomes b. Instead of km, it becomes k, capital K and m, suffix m, right? Or I can call the superscript m, right? So this is the factor. So once you find out, we can find out the total strain energy. So the total strain energy is capital U equals to longitudinal strain energy plus the transverse strain energy, right? So this is UL1, UL plus UT, which is the summation of these two things. And same way, once we find out the total strain energy, we will be equating that to work done. So work done in this case is capital Q, which is limits tends to 0 to L, double integration of 0 to L and 0 to B of P delta dx and dy, right? So we know what is delta here. So delta is from this particular correlate expression given by correlate. Then we equate it to that, like, so this will be equation 28. So once you equate equation 27 with equation 28, so this thing, so this is the factor, right? So when you do some arithmetics are involved in it, like, so when you do it, you probably get this factor AMN. So before that, we need to first, integrate this, and that factor, there will be one factor, and we replace P by 2, summation of m equals to 1 to infinity, n equals to 1 to infinity, AMN, lambda mn. So it's a factor. So we replace that factor in this thing, right? Then you substitute in this particular expression, then you can simplify it to P into lambda mn divided by EIL alpha m power 4 and A m power 2 LKN plus IB by IL lambda n power 4 AN square plus B into Km. So once you find out this factor, substitute in the delta function. So this factor, so substitute in here, so you'll have the final deflection. So we'll have the final deflection, right? So from that, you can probably you can make use of your time to do that later on. So once you do that, like in the case of multi-stiffener problems, once you have the dou value ready, you can integrate, you can make use of this bending moment equation to find out the moment of the longitudinal girders as well as the transverse girders, right? So this is typically a short introduction to the grillage analysis. We have looked into the simple cases, simplified grillage. Then we talked about multi-stiffener grillage. And in multi-stiffener grillage, we'll talk about the simply supported grillage as well as the fixed end grillages, something like that, right? Right. So the summary of future directions, like this is just an introduction to grillages. Actually, there are a lot of factors you can explore in grillages or grillage analysis. And if you are good in finite element analysis, you can probably make use of your finite element analysis knowledge into the grillage analysis. Like there's a book called Advanced Finite Element Analysis by Ross. So he has done a lot of work on grillage analysis, and especially the ship bulkheads, bulkheads. He has done finite element modeling of that, so you can probably take a look at that. And you can also add additional parameters like the buckling, deflection due to shear, and effects of dynamic loading and vibrations and so on, right? So that will make your analysis pretty complete, right? So this is the final thought about this grillage analysis.